Are you interested in a lift for your home shop at a price that will not break the budget? If so, this is the video for you. Welcome to more What the Rust, our second channel of What the Rust. Today we're going to talk about lifts, not facelifts, auto lifts. I recently went through the research and purchasing process, and I want to share what I learned with you and the one kind of big mistake I made so that you can avoid it. A lift is one of the most important decisions and choices you'll make as an auto enthusiast. And I'm not talking about a shop owner, that's a given, you're going to have one. But sometimes you really get to thinking, do I want one in my garage to either use for storage of a car or to work on cars with, or both? So let's talk a little bit about the two primary types of lift, 2-post and 4-post. And I'm not going to detail what a 2-post is versus a 4-post, except to say that if you're going to keep a car on a lift as storage, you want a 4-post. If you're going to have a car up in the air and you want another car under it, that's 4-post. If you have lots of room for the lift, that's 4-post. I went with 4-post. There are good reasons to go with 2, but they're not a good solution if you want to keep the car up in the air for storage purposes. So we're going to go through my research and my decisions about a 4-post lift. Let's start by taking a look at the one I selected. So this is it. Fairly generic 4-post lift. Hydraulically operated. Is a hydraulic motor and the hydraulic reservoir. The lift is raised via cable and secured via latches in each corner, operated by that handle. And we'll get to this later. That's very important. It runs off 120. And as you can see, I've got this plugged to a drop light. These don't draw as much as you might think. Some people say you need 20 amp service and such. In fact, it says here, right on the pump itself. And this light has a breaker in it that breaks at 15 amps. So 15 amps work just fine. And I've owned lifts in the past with 15 amps. The operation is very simple. You press a button up and the lift starts to raise. And when you want to lower it, you push in this handle and this handle. I'm just going to, for demonstration purposes, use my foot because you shouldn't do that. And use it very lightly and just press and it drops down. Very, very simple. Lifts come with lots of accessories, and the manufacturer or the dealer may try to upsell you on a bunch. But there's some things you have to have, and you should have with the lift. The first is the ramps. You need them to go up and down the lift itself, get on and off of it. I like these ramps because they have the yellow safety strip. I have owned lifts in the past that did not have the yellow safety strip, so that's kind of cool. The ramps are detachable as shown, which is a good thing because if you couldn't detach these, you lose a lot of shop space with the length of these ramps. This thing here is called a jack tray, and this moves. And what that's for is when you get the car up in the air, you may need to lift it further to get the wheels off of the lift surface. And you put your jack in this jack tray, position it where you want to position it, and you can lift the front or rear of the car with this. This jack tray is pretty solid. In addition to that, and you should get a jack tray with your lift. You're going to use it, trust me. If you do repairs on a lift, on a 4-post lift, you're going to use it. It should also come with these called stop plates. These are just what they appear to be. They're like safety stops so that you don't go off the end of the lift. Now, I wouldn't use these as normal practice to stop your vehicle on the lift, but they are great to have in place once the car's on the lift, just in case something bad happens and it starts to roll. And you should get 4. 2 for the back, 2 for the front, 2 for the back. The other thing you should get are drip trays. This is a drip tray, and many lifts come with 3. And it's a real simple device. All it does is catch oil leaking, fluids leaking out of your vehicle and catches them in this pan. It's not for like changing oil and stuff, it's for slow leaks. In case you have a vehicle parked underneath, this keeps the fluid off of it. And there's 3 of them, as you can imagine, 1 for the front of the car, 1 for the middle where the transmission is, and 1 for the rear end. All of these should come with your lift standard. If they don't, start asking questions as to why. As I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of different options out there, but there are also a lot of different companies selling lifts, and there's some really big names out there. It doesn't matter what the name is for the purpose of this video. This video is all about doing it as inexpensively but efficiently as possible. You don't have to go with a big name. Yes, they'll have a fancy name on the post, and it may very well be a better made lift. But if you're a home enthusiast, do you need something that will hold up a Mack truck? Probably not. So do your homework. There's a lot of small independent companies out there selling lifts. That's the route I went. We'll get into that soon. Another factor to consider is installation. Trust me when I say these things are heavy. A lift is all steel, there's a lot of weight to it, a lot of bulk to it. I didn't even consider trying to install this myself. And many retailers out there do not offer installation. So if you have a few buddies, yep, and come on over and install the lift in a few hours and you'll be done. But if you don't, like I do, I'm kind of out in the country here, you can get some vendors to do the installation. That's what I did. One of the benefits of using a vendor to do the install is they're pros at it. They literally do it 5 days a week. So they can do it efficiently and they can do it correctly. There's a lot of safety things that can go wrong with a lift, and you want to make sure it's done correctly. When choosing a lift, it seems elementary that it's going to save you space. You got a car up above, you got a car below, it's going to save you a ton of space. Yes, but don't underestimate how much space this lift takes, and I'll show you what I mean. The posts of a lift are pretty massive. They take up a fair amount of room. All of this space from here over to here is essentially wasted space in your garage or shop. And multiply it by 2 on each side and then 2 lengthwise. And let's take an example. I've got my truck parked here. Ordinarily, I could walk around this truck no problem if this lift wasn't here. No issue at all. But with this lift in place, it's really limited my ability to get my truck in here. Don't underestimate that. Do your measurements. I had a lift once in a 2-car garage, and I was disappointed how much room it took because the car that parked next to me was really squeezed. So keep that in mind. Let's just quickly go through the operation of the lift. So I'm just going to press the button. It's totally on the floor right now. And start going up. The lifting speed is actually different among different vendors. And some of the vendors talk a lot about how their lifting speed is faster. And it probably is. But for me, it didn't matter. Now you're going to hear these clicks. Hear that? What that is safety stops. You see the safety stop handle moving here. And what that's doing is encountering a safety stop and going by it. And there's multiple safety stops all the way up the lift. Why are these here? Very simply. You don't ever want to leave weight on the lift with just the hydraulic motor in place. This is not designed to hold up your car. The safety stops are. So you want to make sure that when you're raising up, and I'm going to continue to raise up to show you, near the top of where the lift goes. And we're going to go by the safety stop. So we've gone by it a little bit, and it's actually kind of in between a safety stop. You don't want to leave the vehicle like this. You certainly don't want to get under it like this. So what you want to do is just hit the drop down button here and lower the lift so that it engages the safety stop. And you'll know it, it'll just stop moving and this handle will come up as it did. And you won't be able to move the handle anymore. So you can be sure at this point that the lift is locked into place and you're not relying solely on this hydraulic pressure to hold it in place. Now let's see just how high this thing goes. And that's about it, what you're going to get. And this is about 6 feet high for this style of lift. Now I'm taller than 6 feet, so you'd think, well, that's going to be a problem. No, it won't, because your car is sitting on tires that raises it up a few more inches. So in reality, this lift gives me plenty of room to do what I need to do. And as you can see, it didn't take that long to come up, really. So now I'm going to raise it above the stop as we engage the stop here. And I'm going to hold this down while pressing this lever here to drop it. And that's the correct way to lower it. And as you can see, it's starting to come down. There's no weight on it, so it's slow. With the weight on it, it goes faster. When you're using a 4-post lift, always, always, always keep your eyes on all 4 posts to make sure the lift is coming down evenly. Ask me how I know. These lifts, especially when they get old, things can get stretched, and a safety stop might be a little out of adjustment and catch on the way down. And if it catches on the way down and you don't notice it, the lift is going to topple. And if you've got a car on it, it's going to topple with that car. And that's a bad day right there. So keep your eye on that. And I'm not going to wait until this thing comes down that way. Which leads me to the next subject. Does your lift need to be bolted down? This one is not. You can see that. My answer to that is yes, it needs to be bolted down because that's the safest way to use a lift. Do I know people that use lifts every day that aren't bolted down? Yep, I do. Have I bolted mine down yet? No, I have not, but I've only had it 2 weeks. One of the reasons I haven't bolted this down yet is I'm not 100% sure where I want it in the shop. I kind of like where it is, but it might need to go 1 foot to the left, right, back, forth, not really sure. So I haven't done that yet. Your lift might come with the mounting bolts to do that. This one did. My previous lift did not. But this is in place. How in the world do you move it if you need to? Well, that's where the wheels come in. And these wheels might be optional for some lifts, but they do make moving the lift possible. And the way they work is you raise the lift like this, you hook the wheel up here, and you lower the lift, and it uses a fulcrum operation to raise the lift onto the wheels. I've got the wheels installed. You can see how they're going to work on a fulcrum action. It's connected here to a pre-existing hole, and I'm going to lower the lift onto them. Do not do this with a load on the lift. Do not do it with a car or anything on the lift. These casters are not made for that. And you'll see soon the base plate here starting to rise. Okay, it's coming up. See, this is now loose. Let's see how easy this thing is to move. Oh wow, that's simple. I mean, that is simple to move. Let me show you that on a wide angle. See that? I mean, it's not difficult to move. And with two people, this would be simple. Well, even with one. I mean, I'm moving it pretty easily. I want to put it back where it was. And as you can see, it's not hard. Wheels are disconnected. I moved the lift a little bit forward from where it was, which is what I wanted. So this is all good to go. It's that simple to move it. Let's talk ceiling height. How tall of a ceiling do you need to use a lift? Well, I can tell you, I've used a 4-post lift with a 9-foot ceiling. It wasn't ideal. I couldn't fully stand up under it, but it did work. I also could not fit a car under it, but I could fit the front part of a car under it, and it was a rather long garage, so I did get an extra space out of it. This ceiling is 11 feet, and this allows me to get a car on the lift and a car under it. Obviously, that truck wouldn't work, but 2 cars can. So if you have 11 feet in your shop, you're good. Let's talk price. That's the main driver, probably why many of you are here. This lift cost me $3,600. Not a bad price. I've seen them a whole lot more, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $12,000 for a 4-post lift. This is not a specialty brand. It's a brand called Tuxedo, which is sold through Home Depot, but I got a much better deal than Home Depot. We'll get into that. So it's not totally fly by night, but is it as heavy duty as a $12,000 lift? I highly doubt that. I also paid for installation. That means someone showed up with a truck and a trailer, they backed it in here, they unloaded it, they installed it in 2.5 hours, and they were done. That was wonderful for me. I didn't have to do anything, and I was super busy that day, so I'm glad I didn't. It was well worth it to me. Otherwise, you have to figure out how to get this here. It's super heavy, unload it, set it up like I've already talked about. So all in price for the lift is $4,200 installed. To me, that was the best price I could find, and I did quite a bit of research. I found some close, $4,400, $4,600, but $4,200 is what I found. No sponsorships on this video. I am going to show you the company I bought it from, but he doesn't know I'm doing this, and I'm going to keep it that way. Once you start showing interest in researching a lift, you're going to get peppered with lift dealers trying to get you to buy. Whether you looked on Marketplace or Google or anything, you're just going to open the floodgates for people that want to sell you a lift. And do your research. The company I went with is a 1-person job. If he screws up, it's his company because it's only him as an employee. And the key here is he's not local. The ads you'll see on Marketplace and others will say, hey, we're coming to Nashville soon. We're going to have some lifts on the truck. Let us know if you need one installed. Not really. What happens is they have a base of operations somewhere, and when they get an order, they load up the truck and they come to see you. As old school as that may sound, that's how it's done, at least from the person I bought this lift from in my previous lift years ago. That's just how it works. So while you may be answering an ad, in my case, Nashville Marketplace, the person could be located anywhere, but it doesn't really matter. And that's super important. When you start to shop, try to shop for quality and price, and don't worry about location. It'll come to you, particularly if they're installing it. This is the company I went with, SEK Auto Lifts. Again, they don't know I'm doing this, but I'm happy with what they did, so I figured I'd give them a plug. They had a great price. They delivered it. I mean, he was here in a matter of days from when I asked him about it. He installed it quick and he was done. There is a catalog available for these lifts. I did not shop with this. The person who sold it and installed it dropped this off with me, but this is probably something you could obtain if you wanted to see exactly the company that made the lift and some of the specs and such. But the seller will give you all that anyway. I mentioned in the beginning of the video that I made a pretty large mistake when I purchased this lift. So I need to show you what that is. Not too happy about it. Doesn't really affect my use of it in most cases, but it does affect it. Beware. When I was purchasing the lift, there were all kinds of different options and sizes. And looking at my shop, I did not want a huge monster 4-post lift in here because of the experience I had before that I mentioned about how much room these lifts take. So I measured out how much runway I need. And there's plenty of runway here for an 8-foot bed pickup, standard cab 8-foot bed, which is pretty much what I was looking for. Also a big 70s Cadillac. It'll fit on this no problem. But here's where I screwed up. The distance between these posts is approximately 93 inches. So when I was doing my research, thought 93 inches, no problem. That's wider than anything I own for the most part. But here's where I screwed up. And here's what you need to keep in mind. It's not the distance between the posts that matter, although that's what you'll see in the specifications. It's the distance between these lift cables that you got to worry about. These lift cables are 2 1/4 inches from almost 2 1/2 from the post itself. So you lose nearly 5 inches in width because of that. And I didn't figure that in. So when I bring my truck in, my other truck, which is a 2004 GMC, it's not a huge truck like this thing. I have to pull the mirrors in order to get it on the lift, and I'm really bummed about that. That's so unfortunate. So keep that in mind. If you can afford the space, you might want to go a little bit wider. I wish I had. It's a little late for that now, and I'll live with it, but it's something to keep in mind. And that wraps it up. I hope this was helpful for you. I hope you have a better idea of the costs involved, the options to buy, and what to be careful of with measurements. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel. It's a small channel, but it's important to me, and it's growing. And until next time, have a great day.